Hey everyone, and welcome to Already Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Tara, and we are going to talk about the Twilight Zone Season 1, Episode 8. It's called Time Enough at Last. So, full spoilers for the episode as always. This is a very famous episode, Burgess Meredith, starring, of course, as a man who loves to read, but everyone around him doesn't want to let him, well, do it, basically. he is given out trouble at work for reading on the job, which, sure, he shouldn't be doing. His wife is bizarrely mean about not letting him read, like, ever. And he dreams of having time to read, and then luckily for him the nuclear apocalypse happens and he is alone, left in the world with no one else to bug him and just a lot of time to read. So we both knew what this was going into. We both remembered this episode. Admittedly, I didn't remember a lot of details about it. There was a lot of things as they were popping up. I was like, oh yeah, I guess that was like that. Because in my head, I remembered them like going to the future instead of just the bombs happened.
Oh, okay.
And I wonder if that was
No,
my
no, I remembered this one pretty well.
I wonder if that was me trying to rationalize, like in my memory, why like he wasn't just getting radiation poisoning when he comes out of the vault.
Yeah, it's true. There's zero fallout. It's just he's the last man on Earth all of a sudden.
Yeah, and it doesn't really have to make sense because it's just about the trick, the mean joke on him. Basically, it's about the character arc. But
Yeah, and I think the episode kind of sets that up because you mentioned like his wife is super mean to him and it's unrealistically mean to him or
yeah,
cruel even.
yeah, it's cruel. Like, this is the thing. Like, I think he's supposed to be not unlikable, but kind of a flawed character in that, because I mean this story is obviously be careful what you wish for, right? Don't take for granted what you have. And if they showed me scenes of him like neglecting his wife, right, and that's the idea that he
Hmm.
wants to read all the time, that he's ignoring her needs, her the duties that he should fulfill as a husband or whatever. But we never actually see any evidence of that. All we really see is her being really mean to him from our perspective because she won't even let him read ever, like ever. It's like
Yeah, but I think that the episode is sort of telling you that this is more of like a traditional story,
mm,
like an allegory that they're telling you, where it's not meant to be realistic. It's meant to be um, caricatures
of
rather
course,
than
yeah.
real people that you would meet on the street or whatever, or at your own job, or relatives even. I think everything is supposed to be exaggerated,
Yeah.
just so yeah, it seems more like a traditional cautionary tale story where it doesn't have to be realistic at all.
That's fair. It's just one of the things I was thinking about. Not so much when he's at his job, because when he's at his job, yeah, he shouldn't be reading books under the table if you're working at a bank. Like, you're supposed to be doing your
Yeah.
job.
But people there are still pretty extreme also. Like nobody reads at all.
Yeah, it's the way his boss says, "You, Mister Bemis, are a reader." Like, is that meant to be an
Yeah.
insult? That's like something people look for in people. That's a positive quality. He's well
Yeah, it's not
read.
like he's reading, like dumb comic books or something. Like
No, wait a
reading
minute. No, wait a minute.
he's reading Keats, he's reading Dickens.
I feel attacked. I feel personally attacked by that comment. How dare you? How dare you?
It was not meant to be personal. Not at all.
Uh huh.
No, no, no. Comics are great. Um, yeah, I think it's more than just an allegory for the be careful what you wish for. Because there's also a lot of like themes of solitude and loneliness. Because the actual, explosion happens fairly early. That is one detail that I forgot. Like I didn't realize we spent so much time with them post the bomb.
Mm.
I thought most of the episode was just his life beforehand, and then all of a sudden he has this twist where he's the last man on Earth and he's got all the time in the world to read, with the exception of the one cruel fate that happens afterwards. So, yeah, but there's a lot of, you know, lessons about solitude and versus loneliness because he was wishing for time and for peace for people to leave him alone so he can read. But then when he actually has that, he does consider suicide.
It gets kind of dark for a second. He picks up a gun and he's like, "Oh well, I'll be forgiven for this. I'll be forgiven because this would be cruel to make me not like want to commit suicide in this in this world where there's no
Mhm.
people. I've got nothing to do." And then he finds a library and he's like, all these books, and he has them stacked. He's like, this is March, this is April, this is May, and that's next year's pile, and I'm going to read forever. And then he drops his glasses and they smash completely. Which, by the way, as someone who owns glasses and has dropped them a lot, this is the most ridiculous little thing ever. Now, admittedly, maybe glasses weren't as well built in the 50s, but I've got a funny feeling that glass has not advanced that much in the last 70 years. I'm just going to go out on a limb there and say that.
Well, he shouldn't have had his lenses made out of sugar. So.
Could we talk about the lenses, because they are so thick, like they're like magnifying the glasses over his eyes. Like his eyes are so big looking through them, and like
I imagine he was just acting blind the entire time.
Unless there's a way to do it where it's okay in like one direction, but the other direction looks like that, maybe like a one-way kind of mirror almost. I have no idea.
Yeah, maybe.
Or a two-way mirror.
But it is kind of funny if he was acting blind the entire time until his glasses fell out, and then all of a sudden he was able to see.
But he has to act blind. He goes from acting blind to acting blind.
Yep.
That made sense in my head. I always mix it up.
Oh, I followed along.
See the mirror in an interrogation room? Is that a one-way mirror or a two-way mirror? I can see an argument for both.
Well, I'm not following.
Well, so the mirror where you can look through, like, so you've got people on the other side who can look through like a piece of glass, right? Just a regular piece of glass. Yeah. But on the other side it's a reflection, right? Is that a one-way mirror because it's only reflective on one side, or is it a two-way mirror because you can look through it from the other side? I can never remember which one you call it.
Oh, it has to be two-way, right? Just because there's two ways you can use it. Because one-way mirror, I mean, isn't that just all mirrors?
No, because if you actually just have the piece of glass itself, I'm pretty sure on the back it's also reflective. It's not like it's. Oh, I think it is.
I don't know. We need to settle this, though. I'm gonna look it up.
I feel like I've heard it both called a one-way mirror and a two-way mirror, and both make some amount of sense depending on how you think about it. This is irrelevant to the episode. We just my argument was that maybe his glass lenses were kind of like that.
Two-way mirror. A one-way mirror, also called a two-way mirror. So you're right both times.
So basically my confusion is because the world is stupid and didn't pick a name.
Because nobody was able to decide. Yeah. So now we have two names for the same thing. Well, I'm glad we cleared that up.
Yeah, I'm glad we cleared that up. No, I don't feel so stupid. That's fine. So, what, do you know, this is on a similar theme here. There was a street near my high school. I used to walk to lunch, right? There was a street near my high school where after walking through this street to go to lunch for years, it suddenly dawned on me and my friends that there were two piano shops in that street, because we always just assumed we were passing the same shop again. And it was just one day we kind of noticed, wait a minute, there's two piano shops on this street. Is there really that much piano business in the town that they need two piano shops competing on the same street?
That's right. So you guys had like glitch in the Matrix moment every time you walked home from
basically, school? Yeah, basically. I don't know, I didn't think of that, the two names. Anyway, so yeah, it's kind of like his wife feels really cruel, but at the same time you don't really, because I have to imagine, like, what made her this bad? Like, was he like refusing to go out and hang out with friends?
I was trying to rationalize it also, but also put it into like today's terms. And
this would be video games. This would be video games.
Video games. I did think of video games. I also just thought of cell phones, just in general, as a distraction and not really being present. Because you go out, and you want to spend time with somebody, and they're on their phone the whole time. I think video games makes more sense.
Because I feel
in our world.
Because I feel like the point of the episode is that he should cherish other things, right? But because it feels that everyone's being cruel to him, I kind of sympathize with him.
But I also see the point of the episode being that everybody else has lost their way. These are great works of literature that he's reading, and people don't respect them anymore in this world. And, it's everybody else that caused the bomb to go off.
That's
Nobody
true.
even seemed to know what was happening because nobody was reading the newspapers.
Yeah, it wasn't his fault. Like, I like that interpretation that it's all them that are in the fault, even though he has this obviously twist ending where, again, be careful what you wish for, because now you have all the time in the world, but you can't
Yeah,
read
I mean,
because you're
Keats
blind.
was a poet who did like who wrote about natural beauty and like being out in the world, the real world, not it's like the complete opposite of the world that he ends up in.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I really love the sets that they built for this one. They really went all out.
As do I, yeah. There's a lot of because I thought it was just going to be the one like one or two locations, but there was actually a good like four or five like different areas you went into that was like sets where
Hmm.
streets or buildings have been torn down. The steps of the library felt quite impressive. Do you know what really
Yeah,
stuck out to me
they
in
had a
this
really cool
actually?
car.
They did have a
Hmm.
cool car. There's obviously they had backdrops for this, right? For all the destruction, the distance, and it's very similar to the sort of thing Star Trek would have in the original series. I'm bringing up Star Trek,
Yeah,
not you. I know it's weird, but it was very similar to
still
that.
counts.
And on Star Trek, the original series, like I always appreciated them, but they always look really fake. Amusingly, I think in black and white they actually kind of work a little bit better, where I can still tell they're fake,
Oh, totally.
but they do blend in better with the overall image, where it's
Well,
not
plus
sticking
we
out
can
to me as
tell they're
much.
fake because we watch an HD version of the show now.
That's true, yeah. Maybe an SD and the old, tube TV. Maybe this wouldn't be as obvious.
Right.
That's true.
Yeah. I really enjoyed the set, just, taking my time looking at it.
Hmm.
I thought it was really cool because we had like the one rocket ship in the last episode, but usually the sets are just an abandoned Universal Studios lot or like a house, an apartment, like pretty small stuff.
Yeah, they splashed the cash for this one, I think, a little bit. So just to go back to the cruelty of the wife a little bit, I want to talk about the cruelest thing she
Yeah.
does. So he's sneaking a poetry book in his jacket, and
Yeah.
she catches it and pulls it out of his jacket, says, "Why don't you read me some?" And I thought, yeah, why not share your husband's passion? Maybe bond over it a little bit.
He was so
I
excited
know.
too. I totally felt for him.
And then he pulls out the book, and I'm like, yeah, this is what you bond with your wife over this. You share the thing you're passionate about. And he opens the book, and she's crossed out all over the pages. This is actually quite maniacal. When imagine the scene of her doing this, where she's
Oh
going
yeah.
through every single
That
page and
this
just
takes time. It
this was
wasn't I
commitment.
mean, it was a small book, but it's still like what, like 100 something pages in that book of just crossing it out so that it's unlegible.
I mean, there's no indication they have kids. I mean, is she just staying at home and he's at work, just crossing out pages of books that he's got hidden around the house? Is that the day job?
I guess. It would be an equivalent to like, hey honey, why don't we both play a video game together? And then finding out that she's deleted all the saves.
That would be cruel.
Wouldn't that be cruel?
That'd be very cruel. Yeah, it's the video games were the thing I was thinking of because I've actually had friends who've said, "No, I can't. I don't want to go out for dinner tonight. I've got a raid in World of Warcraft," and I'm like, "Dude, what?"
Nerds. That definitely was not me at all.
And for the record, I play I play a lot of video games, but I have never once in my life cancelled or said no, I can't do something. No, with the possible exception of like, okay, like the day Resident Evil 2 came out this year, right? That was Resident Evil 2's launch day. That's like a movie premiere. No, 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 no. That's launch
Yeah,
day.
but your friends who know you should
Exactly.
know that that's
Yeah,
Resident Evil
that's
Day.
booked out. But this was no,
Peter's
no, no.
busy.
This was playing World of Warcraft for the fourth year in a row. It's like, no, no, no. It's raid night. I'm not going
Yeah,
out.
but we always raid on Mondays, Fridays, Saturdays, sometimes Wednesdays, and Thursday nights. Like,
So you're saying Tuesday's good? Okay, Tuesday's good.
Tuesday's good.
Excellent. So I'm like, okay, I can kind of see it in that sense. Yeah, I can almost like take it and put it more in context. Like instead of having a book under the table, he's got like a little switch. He's just playing the switch under the
Yeah.
table. Like, and I can just imagine the boss going, "You, sir, Mr. Bemis, are a gamer."
Hmm.
Which at least today,
Yeah.
I feel like there are a lot of like stigma with gamers still, where I think that would actually make. I wouldn't agree with the statement, but the line wouldn't feel as weird. Whereas him saying "you're a reader" feels so weird to me, like as if that's a negative.
Hmm.
Like why? Why would that be a negative?
I also kind of thought of, I know we've had this conversation before about how digital media is something that can be lost so quickly now.
Hmm.
If something were to happen, like we don't have with internet and streaming everything, we're losing more and more physical media or like just if there's like a sudden power outage everywhere, like how much stuff would you lose forever?
A lot.
Yeah, a lot. I think a lot of our history would be lost too, just because we're moving on to, I know it's getting kind of deep, but like, but the episode did make me think that, like, if there was an event now, you know, our how long until all of our books are just printed on computers
Joe's
and
funny.
tablets, and it would be
Joe's
gone forever.
What I think's interesting about this episode is I feel like the final little twist is fine. It's a little cruel twist that kind of goes, oh dear. But I feel like what makes this episode kind of timeless is because it does make us think of all these different things based on everything that it's done in the episode. As opposed to,
Yeah.
because I don't think anything, a lot of what we were talking about, I don't think it's the point of the episode, but it's making us think of all these things. It's making us, of preservation, the idea that the books are all still there. But that doesn't really
Yeah.
have anything to do with the cruel twist that he can't read them.
No, that's more just like an allegory for hell,
Yeah.
if anything else.
Yeah. Welcome to hell, Mr. Bemis.
Yeah. You finally get everything you want, except you can't read it. Yeah, that's just, is it ironic? I don't know. Is it irony? I get confused about what irony is.
Just don't listen.
Alanis Morissette would say yes, but I don't know
Yeah,
if it's true.
don't listen to Alanis Morissette. You don't want to go to her for lessons of what irony is.
I know it's a contrast between expectation and reality, but I don't know what that means. I just know the definition.
It's like you've got a package of scissors and you can't get into it, so you're trying to find a pair of scissors to open the scissors, but you can't find a pair of scissors. That's irony.
That's irony. Okay. Okay, yeah. That sounds like hell.
That's true. But yeah, so
Oh, I like that we also got a narration in the middle this time.
yeah,
I don't remember
was
that happening
nice.
before.
And I think it
It's
worked
kinda cool.
because he was kind of wandering around on his own, so it was nice that Rod Serling came back in and was like, he's in a graveyard of what world once was. Rod was just waxing lyrically like he normally does, and it sounds good.
Yeah.
But I
It
like
was
it better
cool.
than the character needlessly talking to himself constantly, because sometimes they do that, and
Me too. Yes.
it's a bit unrealistic because people don't talk to themselves that much. Not really.
Uh-huh. Although, I can imagine if somebody was the last person on Earth that they would start talking to themselves just so they can hear
Probably.
a voice,
Yeah. I,
But
I talk to the
but
cats
you're
a
right.
lot.
Most of the time we get like people just thinking out loud way too much
Yeah. And it still
in these
happens.
episodes.
Me and Tim just recorded a Streams After Midnight for Escape Room. And the opening scene, there's a character on their own trying to figure out the game, and he's just like constantly saying what he's thinking because he's on his own. And it's like the rest of the movie, he's like a really quiet character, and you never, because it's one of those things where it starts off like late in the movie and then cuts back to the start. And for like most of the movie, he's like he's sarcastic and says things here and there, but he's a fairly quiet guy. But no. This opening scene, he's just talking to himself constantly as he's trying to figure out the clues to the game. So it still happens. There's still things that are guilty of it. Whereas I actually think there's power in having silent scenes. Have a silent scene where it's just visual.
Oh, yeah.
And you just see the performance. Let the actor do the thing. And
Yeah, trust your audience to figure out what's happening. You don't need to tell us everything.
yeah, do it visually. I mean, filmmaking TV shows, they are a visual medium after all. Show don't tell.
Yeah, well, this is a nice evolution of the episode so far. They seem to be. I think this episode is flawless, to be honest. It's great at what it wants to deliver. The message is clear, and like you said, we still think about it. It still causes us to think about our own situation and what would happen. So it's timeless, and it works really well. And I do think it's a nice. I think before this, the best episode is probably the first one, and there's a lot of parallels with the Last Man on Earth situation and isolation and all that.
They've
But,
definitely liked that theme this season so far. That's definitely been, because even the last episode
Yeah.
was thematically
yeah,
there too.
it's about a man who's alone, right? But I think this one is the clear winner as far as formula and just how the episode progresses and tells its story.
Actually, I
great.
really liked your flip on the take on it, where it's criticizing society
Mm.
for losing things, because, and I think that kind of adds up when you think about how he's been chastised for reading great works of literature. He's talking about Dickens. He's talking about whoever. Like every single thing he mentions is classical writers and poetry, and it's like people are mad at him for wasting time on it. Because it's not like his wife's chasing him off because he's always reading the sports section, or he's just chasing him off because he's always looking at porn, or whatever. It's classic literature. This is the sort of thing people study in English and university and whatever. Like, these are,
Yeah.
the idea that they all don't care about it, and maybe there is a critique on the world there. So
Yeah,
I like
people
that.
are moving away. I mean, this is the era of people having televisions in their homes for the first time.
That's
And,
true.
reading is something that's probably going away. And even now, like, I don't know a lot of people who read. I read sometimes, but to be honest, it's usually audiobooks.
Because you can do that while you're driving.
Exactly, because I commute.
No, I get it. I wish I had time to read more, but between all the things I reviewed and watch for review, between all the comics I read for
Mhm.
review, between everything else, like typically when I have some free time, it tends to be video games because it's the one thing that I don't do for review. And I'm not a super fast reader either, so it's like if I start a book, I'm like, okay, that's like 2 months of like you
Yeah,
know
and
little
I'm
bits at a
probably the
time.
same way, but it's because it's also because I don't read that much. I know I'm slow because I'm out of practice.
It's a shame because like some of the books that I have read, loved the experiences. Like I like the original
Oh
Dracula.
yeah,
I think is a genuine masterpiece. I've read Dracula. It's phenomenal. It's better than any movie that's ever been based on Dracula. But I just
I don't
yeah.
think I've ever not enjoyed a book that was assigned to me in school to read. It was a chore to get through, and I hated it. But once you sit in class and you start analyzing
Mm.
the characters and motivations and themes and symbolism, like that stuff is fun.
I like it too.
And there's so much more complex than what you can get in any other type of media.
I wish more of English was about actually critically analyzing things that way. I feel like so little of it actually was. And one of the things I hated in English, I hated Shakespeare with a passion. I still hate Shakespeare. Like I despise it with every fiber of my being. And we did like 4 Shakespeare plays. We're only going to do say 10 things over like so many years of like an English class, but for the amount of time it takes to get through them, like we're doing 4 things by the same damn person. Can we mix this up a little
Yeah.
bit and do something
Well,
else?
America does that with John Steinbeck. We gotta read a lot of Great Depression books
I'm
and
gonna
also Shakespeare.
I'm not gonna lie. I couldn't have told you who that was. Maybe for the
Yeah.
better. Maybe for the
Hopefully
better.
some of the listeners or viewers know.
I'm sure they do. I'm
We
sure
have
they do.
Americans who watch this show, right?
I'm pretty sure we have more Americans who watch our content than we do British people.
Probably.
Yeah. So maybe it's because my accent's all exotic for Americans. Draws them in.
Mhm. I mean, it took me a long time to figure out what you were saying. What is a Tuesday? Do you just choose what day you're on?
What, Tuesday? That's how you say it.
Tuesday. It's
What,
Tuesdays with Maury.
Tuesday? Tuesday. That's like,
Yeah,
what is Monday?
because it's the
Wednesday?
second work day.
Is Wednesday Thursday? Is Thursday Thursday? I mean, it actually kind of works Thursday. Thursday. That one almost works. Fives
See, this is
day?
how Americans have to work.
6 day? Sevens day? No,
And
no.
then we rest.
It's 6 day and then Day of the Lord. If we're going back.
And then everything's closed. Although not so much anymore. It's getting better.
Oh
Thanks to
dear.
immigrants.
Um, but no. Very good episode of Twilight Zone.
Agreed.
It's a very good
One of the
episode.
best, I think.
And
Yeah.
Burgess Meredith, we didn't mention like his performance so much, but he's very likable, and I like how mischievous it feels he's being when he's sneaking his books. Again, even though he shouldn't have it to be sneak
Mhm.
books around, but he feels mischievous. He's like, oh, I'm going to put this poetry book in my. And how many people, even at the time, liked reading poetry as like people like reading novels, sure,
Yeah.
but like reading
Yeah.
poetry, I feel that's an even more of a niche kind of audience.
Yeah. That's a skill you have to practice.
Cat, what are you doing? Stop it.
Sabotage.
Cat,
Firefly
cat,
sabotage.
Saba, cat-tage, I don't know.
You have to work with that.
I don't have a cat pun for sabotage. I do know that if he's successful, it'll be a catastrophe.
Uh, Winner, winner.
It's a classic. Well, all right. Winner chicken dinner. Um, we have been already cancelled. We've been talking about the Twilight Zone. It's been a good episode. It's a very good episode. So, you can let us know what you thought of the episode in the comments below, and you can like and subscribe. You can do all that. What else can people do to support us, Tara?
They can go to Patreon at patreon.com/MildFuzzTV, where you can donate as little as $1 and you'll get exclusive content. And you'll get some episodes early, a week early, including these Twilight Zone reviews.
Nailed it.
Nailed it.
What else can I do?
Oh. I don't know. I only memorized the one part of the script.
You can get us on Twitter at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. If you would like to buy merchandise and get yourself a nice Mail Fuzz TV hoodie or shirt or some such, you can do that over at the Spreadshirt stores. We have a US one and a UK one. There's links in the description, so you can do that. But yeah, that is us. So thank you very much once again. Is there anything you would like to promote?
You can check out our new show. It's called The Ace, the Atomic Cinema Experiment, where we review science fiction films from the past and some newer ones too. The first episode goes live this Thursday, which is the 18th. Be very excited. We're very proud of it.
That's entirely untrue because we are ahead in recording these, so the first one will have been up for weeks by the time this one goes up.
Well, I said the 18th.
Sure. We'll be closer to the 18th of May by the time this goes up, though. So.
Oh gosh. So I hope you guys have been enjoying the Ace.
Yes. Also, I love the confidence where you sound like you were forgetting the title as you were saying. You're like, the Atomic Cinema Experiment.
Yeah, what a little Shatner there.
Yeah.
I might have forgotten it. But it's only because sometimes I say experience instead of experiment. I really want to make sure I get it right.
So sometimes I go a bit Shatner on the outros. Connor likes to make fun of me for pausing right before the final line, just because I'm remembering which catchphrase I use for each show. I'm like, right, just processing. Okay, it's that one. All right, there we go. Yeah, in fact, actually, hopefully by now there should even. I mentioned the t-shirts and the hoodies and stuff over the Spreadshirts. Hopefully by now there's actually some Ace t-shirts and stuff up if you want to.
Ooh, that'd be cool.
You want to support that specifically. So that is us. So thank you once again for watching and listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV, guys, in the Twilight Zone.